Hello, welcome to another episode of the Read Step. I am your host, Isaiah Ruiz, and today we have a very unique Saturday as we had three NFL games, including the most watched bowl game over the past weekend, probably, maybe unless you stayed up watched that USC Texas A&M game. But we have the BYU Cougars taking on and dominating, and I mean dominating the the Colorado Buffalo, and it was definitely a way to go out for Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter, the Heisman Trophy winner. But we'll get into that in a second. I kind of want to first start off with the NFL, and the first game that we're going to start off with here is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals against the Denver Broncos. Cincinnati wins 30 to 24. Bit of a crucial game for the Bengals. Both teams need it as they're both in the playoff hunt. And while many people probably picked the Bengals to win, Joe Burrow continued to do his thing, 39 for 49, 412 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions with a 91.2 QBR. Chase Brown having an unbelievable season with 20 carries, 67 yards. And then T. Higgins, who is on one of my fantasy teams, 11 catches, 131 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He's been hurt quite a bit this season, but he's had an unbelievable year when he did play and was on the field. Meanwhile, on Denver, 24, like I said, 24 points. Bo Nix was 24 of 31, 219 yards, 3 touchdowns, a pick. McLaughlin was the leading rusher with 10 carries for 69 yards, and Marvin Mims went over 100 yards with a couple of touchdowns for the Broncos. I kind of wanted to start. We'll start by saying this. You know, I'm a Steeler fan. For those of you who don't know yet, I'm a Steeler fan, and to be quite honest with you, I hate the Bengals, but I hate the Broncos also, and just keep it a buck. And while I definitely I don't really care as far as like seeding because my Steelers are already in the playoffs, even though they've lost 3 straight. But I kind of wanted to talk about something that's been a little bit of a hot topic really all year long. Everybody's talking about Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen for a MVP race, and rightfully so. 2 of the best quarterbacks to play this season. Patrick Mahomes, while I'm one of those people that believe that Patrick Mahomes, despite not having the type of year he's having, the fact that he's led his team to be 15-1 and just continues to find ways to win. I don't think he's going to get a whole lot of MVP votes because let's face it, MVP is really more of who I'm gonna call it. I'll even go a step further. Who had the most highlights, who had the most attraction, who was bringing more eyes to the league, who was more fun to watch, all that stuff. Because if we're really gonna keep talking about most valuable player, Patrick Mahomes is the most valuable player in the entire NFL, and he's the best player in the NFL. You can argue with the wall. That's just what I believe. That's just what I know to believe, and I think we will see that when the way that the Kansas City Chiefs win is built for the playoffs, and the way that Patrick Mahomes continues to find ways to win, let alone over the past 3 years, is built for the playoffs. But the MVP, however, is really based on, again, what do you look like? Are you getting all the highlights? Are you getting all the recognition? Are you getting the names, the mentions? Are you getting posted a lot? That's really what it is. Let's take it even a step further. People talk about, whoever had the best season with one of the best records. Yeah, that is true. But it really is who's the hottest person to talk about. And it's Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. And rightfully so, they both are having great years. But the reason why I want to bring up the MVP is because Joe Burrow, in my opinion, let's just look at his overall. I want to get everything right because this dude has had an absolutely amazing season this year. If the Bengals were anywhere between the 1 to 4, maybe 5 seed, Joe Burrow by far would be the leadway MVP candidate. He is number 1 in passing yards with 4,641 yards, 42 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions with a 76.6 QBR, which is third in the league. Now, some people who do know ball, and many people who understand how things work. Yeah, a lot of these numbers do go off of the fact that their Cincinnati's defense is just absolutely atrocious, dumpster juice, just quite trash to be completely honest with you. I think everybody knows that. Anybody that's been paying attention knows that they're just a god awful football team. Even if they do somehow manage to make it into the playoffs, they're not going anywhere because of that defense. And I think most people, I think we all know it. However, Joe Burrow, without a doubt, and I'm saying this as a Steeler fan, he deserves to be in the MVP race, or at least considered a little bit. Um, he's also, another player that actually, I mean, this kind of goes hand in hand, but Jamar Chase has also had an unbelievable year. Dude is about to win the triple crown with 117 catches, 1,600 yards, and 16 touchdowns. The last receiver to do that, we all know who he was. It was the guy that was actually on the other side of the field from when they were in the Super Bowl a few years ago, and that's Cooper Kupp. So I say all that to say this, like, the Bengals probably aren't going to make the playoffs. Maybe they'll sneak in. Who knows? But one of my biggest gripes with the MVP award, not just in this sport, but in many sports, is that it really doesn't go. The fact that you have to anchor in record, in my opinion, I really think Joe Burrow should be one of the top 2 or 3 guys, because again, if you want to look at the numbers, you want to break everything down. Joe Burrow has been playing better than Josh Allen, and while Lamar Jackson is absolutely insane, another AFC North quarterback. I just think you put Joe Burrow on any of these other teams, you're probably having favor to go to the Super Bowl and beating Patrick Mahomes, especially since Joe Burrow is the only one that has beaten Joe. I'm sorry, Joe Burrow is the only one that has beaten Patrick Mahomes in the past in the playoffs over the last 3-4 years. So my takeaway from this game, other than the Bengals pulling this one out in overtime. Unbelievable game for Joe Burrow, unbelievable game for T. Higgins, who's looking to get a big contract. And I think his play on the field this year, as he has been healthy, like I said, he missed a lot of time due to injury, but every time he was on the field, for the most part, he's done an unbelievable job. And I think he's going to get a big contract somewhere. Hopefully it's with the Steelers. I wouldn't mind signing him. It's another big piece to add on the other side of George Pickens. You have 2 dominant big receivers right there. Moving on to the other side, the Denver Broncos have been, once again, one of the biggest topics and stories of this year. You got Sean Payton as the head coach. You got Bo Nix, who has started to lit it up after after the beginning of the season and led the Broncos to right back into playoff contention, but took another tough loss here. I think the Denver Broncos, I think they have, regardless of what happens, they could go, whether they make the playoffs or not. I think the Denver Broncos, I think they're really suited to have a pretty big, I think they're suited to have a pretty good year next year. I think Bo Nix being drafted by Sean Payton, which is really what matters, because we all know Sean Payton wasn't the one who picked up Russell Wilson, and that we all saw how that relationship went. So I think next year going forward, you got Denver, who has arguably the best defense in the league, with arguably the best defensive player in the league, and I would make the argument with PS2 Patrick Surtain, the second. Don't know exactly. I would say if the Denver Broncos do make the playoffs, do end up in the playoffs, because as far as teams that are in the hunt, it's a pretty tight race, and this was a huge game for playoff contention, but. I wouldn't really view Denver. I wouldn't view either of these teams as a total threat. However, I do think this just goes to show how close a couple of teams are in the AFC to being a top contender next year in the NFL. We talk a lot about the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens, and rightfully so, great teams. But these 2 teams, if the Bengals can figure out their defense, they're going to be right back in it. And if the Broncos can continue to If Bo Nix continues to improve going into next year, I think that's going to be a great season for him next year. And they do need a couple more pieces on offense, but the Broncos are looking good, and we'll see what they continue to do going forward. But overall, a great game, and 2 franchises that one of them expected to do well and just completely. Season didn't go the way they planned, and another one, the season went a lot better than what they planned. So we'll see how these 2 teams shape out as the regular season comes to an end. next week with the final week of the NFL season. And some of the other games, you got the Cardinals, and you have the LA Rams rivalry game. You got the Rams coming out 13-9, 10-6, potentially finish 11-6 on the season. Started off, I think they started off 0-3 or 1-3, something like that, and it completely turned it around. Matthew Stafford didn't have a whole lot of a crazy game. 17 of 32, 189 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Kyren Williams 56 yards, 1 touchdown. Puka Nacua though had the majority, and I'm not kidding, the majority of those yards from Matthew Stafford. 10 catches, 129 yards with no touchdowns. And meanwhile, the Cardinals, you got Kyler Murray, 33 for 48, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and Trey McBride, 12 catches, 123 yards with a touchdown. Trey McBride, one of the best tight ends, one of the best young tight ends in the NFL, and Marvin Harrison with 96 yards on 6 catches. I really do, when it comes to the Rams, all I can say is they're going to be a top contender in the NFC. And I truly mean that. I think if they were to play any of the top teams, the Lions, the Eagles, I wouldn't pick them just quite yet to beat either of those two teams. I just want to make that clear. However, I do think they would put up a good fight, and I do think that they would beat some of these other teams in the NFC that would be, or sorry, some of these other playoff teams in the NFC. They've been on a roll right now. If they could somehow continue to get continue to get Puka Nacua the ball. He's obviously turned into their wide receiver 1. Cooper Kupp I still think he's capable of doing his thing, and they got one of the best. They have one of the best running backs in all of football, in my opinion, especially in the NFC with Kyren Williams, and only I believe his second year. And the Rams, they continue to play well. They continue to dominate. They continue to just. I don't know what it is. I don't know exactly what it was, but I truly believe also that leadership and coaching matters a lot in this league. You got Matthew Stafford, has been Super Bowl champion, been doing it for a long, long time, and Coach McVay has just done an unbelievable job overall during his tenure as the coach of the LA Rams. And I just think that this season has been a testament to how good they really are and how much that really matters. You got a couple key pieces on the defensive side of the ball in their rookie year. Both of them from Florida State. You got one. I forgot the defensive end and his name and his teammate, but the defensive end, the defensive tackle. Well, it comes to Jared Verse. There you go. And anyway, I'm sorry. Yes, Braden Fisk, Jared Verse. Those are 2 guys. Sorry about that. The Rams, I believe, with this win, now they're sitting comfortable in that first spot in the NFC West, and they're gonna be making the playoffs. You still got the obviously you're gonna have the Lions, and you're gonna have the Eagles up top. The Vikings as well. The Vikings gonna be one of the top teams, but I truly believe that the Rams can go in and beat the Minnesota Vikings. I believe that the Rams can go in and beat some of these other teams. Such as the Falcons, if they make it, the Green Bay Packers. I believe that they have a chance to beat some of these teams. The only 2 teams I wouldn't take them over is, like I said, Detroit or Philly. But I do think that the Rams are pretty well suited to really compete with anybody. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. We can't argue with that. And it just kind of goes to show. And by the way, I know some people might say, oh, well, they only won 9-13. Like, that doesn't really show much of beating a Cardinals team that's struggling. While that is true, one of the things that I always say is when it comes to division opponents, when it comes to in your division, it doesn't matter what the record is. It's always going to be a tough fight. It's always going to be a brawl. So the fact that they were able to pull this win out, I think they know how huge that is, and it sets them up well for getting a home playoff game in the postseason. And lastly, the last NFL game that we had the LA Chargers versus the New England Patriots. Chargers dominated this game 40-7. This is more of a college score right here. Justin Herbert, 26 for 38, 281 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 116 rating. J.K. Dobbins came back, 19 carries, 76 yards, and a touchdown. And Ladd McConkey continues to dominate as far as that receiving core with 8 catches, 94 yards, and a couple touchdowns. Meanwhile, Drake May 117 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. But overall, the Chargers start. I'm not gonna lie. I think the Chargers starting off the season, I wasn't too sold on them 100%. I'm always sold on Justin Herbert. I like Justin Herbert as a quarterback. I think with him, J.K. Dobbins having a resurgence along with Jim Harbaugh, and that offensive line is going to continue to be built because that's the type of coach that Jim Harbaugh is. I'm pretty. I like this Chargers team. I don't think they're going to beat any of the top AFC teams, the Bills, the Ravens, the Chiefs. I don't even think they could beat us again, but we'll see as far as the Steelers. Um, but this is a good win. Keeps them in the playoff hunt. Keeps them in the playoffs. I should say keeps them in the playoffs, especially with that loss to the Broncos. Really sets them back. So I think the Chargers could be definitely a force, though, a force to be reckoned with. Especially, I think out of all the division winners that are probably going to win, it's going to be between us or the Ravens. So that's going to be one. But the Texans, I feel like, are going to be a team. Like if they were to be matched up, I believe honestly, I think I would take the Chargers in that matchup. The Houston Texans are down right now as far as injuries. I think we all know that. We got Stephon Diggs, who is out for the year, and Tank Dell suffering a horrendous knee injury, and we hope that he gets better soon. But the Chargers are going to be a really good team in the playoffs. I think they're better now than they were at the beginning of the year. And yes, again, while I understand that we beat them at that time, I still think the Steelers have a good chance of beating them if they do see them again in the playoffs, which can happen for sure. Um, but that's just as far as the NFL games. That's really all I have for now. I wasn't able to watch a whole lot. I got a lot of life stuff that happens here, but I was able to pay attention and look at the scores and watch a couple games. But the Chargers, though, again, I think the Chargers are suited well for the postseason. I think Jim Harbaugh has that team right, and I think if you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert, I think he's one of the top four quarterbacks in the AFC. I think it's Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen, and Justin Herbert. The only reason why I say that, Joe Burrow, while I do think he should, I don't, obviously, I'm talking about as far as really making the playoffs and actually having a push and going. So going into the postseason, I should say, I think Justin Herbert is the fourth best quarterback in the AFC. And as long as you got him and you got that team rolling, once again, I could see them beating the Houston Texans. I could see them coming back and beating us or whoever that the team is on that last spot for the playoff contention. So we'll see how they continue to do. But Justin Herbert, under the right coach and under the right offense, is going to do great. He's going to do what he was drafted to do, and he's going to go out and do what he did today. Again, 281, 3 touchdowns, 116 passing rating. And I get that it's the New England Patriots, don't get me wrong. But I just think that the Chargers, similarly to the Rams, I think the Chargers and the Rams are really catching stride at the end of the season, and it's exciting to watch and it's exciting to see from a football fan perspective. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in the playoffs in general. I think the NFC is a little bit more of a toss-up because it could be the Lions, it could be the Eagles, it could be the Rams. It could be any of those other teams, but I think those three teams have a good shot at making it. From the AFC, I mean, it could be the Chargers, it could be the Bills, the Ravens. Everybody's picking the Chiefs in the postseason at this point. If you haven't learned your lesson, at some point you'll figure it out. The Chiefs are the Chiefs, and they're going to continue to win, figure out ways to win. It could be my Steelers, but my Steelers, again, lost 3 straight. I'm not too confident in them right now. I think some of the decisions that are made by the quarterback, Russell Wilson, and some of the decisions made by the coaches just quite frankly aren't good enough to win you a game. And then last game we saw against the Chiefs, I mean, honestly, I thought we should have won that game, but when you're leaving guys open every single play, that's just unacceptable. So I'm not very confident in my Steelers right now. So that's why I'm taking the Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, and Chargers as the 4 best teams in the AFC to have a really good shot of winning. Moving on to college football, just kind of wrap up this episode. Yeah, the BYU Cougars versus the Colorado Buffaloes. Obviously, everybody wants the Colorado Buffaloes to win because of Prime Time and Shador and Travis Hunter. It's everybody's favorite team. Let's cut the brakes here. Colorado's never been a good program. They never have been, never will be. I'm sorry, but if they had the chance to do it, it would have been now as with the Heisman Trophy winner and probably the number 1 quarterback in Shador Sanders. Those 2 guys, I think, are really good. Don't get me wrong, I really do. I think Travis Hunter is going to be an absolute beast in the NFL. Shador might take a little bit of time, but I think he's still going to be a pretty solid NFL quarterback. I'm not one who's going to be suckered into fairy tale stories of, oh, it's Deion Sanders has done a great job as a head coach. I will give him that. There's nothing. I'm just talking about the program itself, with all this attention that it's getting, with all this attention that everybody wants to be giving them. In my opinion, I'm not here for it. I don't think they're a very good team. I don't think they're a very good program. Finished off the season 9-4, and they get their ass whooped, 36-14 by the BYU Cougars, who will finish off the season 11-2. Their quarterback, 151 yards with 2 picks. They didn't even play a very good game with 2 picks. However, their running back, L.J. Martin, 93 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also led in receiving with 33 yards. I think this obviously goes to show that this was more of a dominant performance, obviously by the defense. And while Colorado struggled to put anything up, you got Travis Hunter leading with 106 yards, 1 touchdown, and that was pretty much it. I mean, Savell Smalls had 1 catch, 2 yards, 4 touchdowns. So my thoughts on Colorado and BYU. I'm congratulations to the BYU Cougars on winning the Valero Alamo Bowl. I think it's they obviously wanted to win in fashion and win in a certain type of fashion that was dominant. Everybody knows how much recognition Colorado gets, and I just want to give the proper recognition to the BYU Cougars, who came out there and dominated the game. As far as Colorado, I mean, there's not much to say about the program. However, I will say this about Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter, both top 10, top 5 picks. I think Shador Sanders should go to the New York Giants. I think he should be happy to go to the New York Giants, to be honest with you. I think the Las Vegas Raiders, they've proven they're not a good greatly ran organization. He's not gonna get developed. And despite all the shit that I was talking about the Colorado Buffaloes, I think Shador Sanders should end up in a situation where he gets developed. And it's not so much that the Giants are known for developing players, but I think that they're at least a better development of players than the Raiders. And I think that's going to be a best fit for him. Travis Hunter, don't know exactly where he's going to go. He's probably going to be picked after Shador if he's not. He's probably going to be picked after Shador. Going to be the number 1 and number 2 pick in the NFL draft. That's how I have it mocked up right now. And Travis Hunter, I think, is going to be an absolutely stud NFL player. And we'll see what happens. I'm actually going to come out with, a couple months from now, I'll come out with a mock draft, and then I'll share with you guys of how I have everything going so far. But BYU dominates 36-14. Sorry, not a whole lot of analysis there when it comes to the game. Didn't really get to watch it a whole lot, but I did want to talk about it a little bit. And this final game is pretty much how I expected it to go. Colorado getting absolutely dominated by a much better, inferior team. And it's no surprise to anybody who knows football and knows the college program, because everybody's overhyping Colorado to be something that they're not. And what they're not is a good football program. Not right now, at least. So we'll see what happens from here. But that's all I have for you today, guys. Make sure you guys like, subscribe. Leave a comment down. You could talk shit to me if you like in the comments. If you're a Colorado fan, you could... whatever you want to do, you can call me crazy for some of my picks. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to each and every episode. We're going to continue to grow this community and grow this channel. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. This is The Read Step, and I am your host, Isaiah Ruiz.